A friend has asked me to put this up to help a school raise funds so they can accept more children into their nursery. So please help if you can. Thank you. Right, we're going to do a gun build on this Cybergun VFC Colt gas blowback. So we've got some improvements that we're going to make. The first one is we're going to change the inner barrel to a 6.02 inner barrel, 510mm long. I'm going to put this suppressor on here, and inside that suppressor is going to go this 3D printed support for the inner barrel. We're also going to fit this Magnus Pro hop unit along with the hot bucking, and we're also going to change the upper, so it will now be a bolt action. This is made by Maple Leaf. So I'm going to grab some tools, I'm going to go over and I'm going to show you how I'm going to do this. So the first thing we're going to remove is this flash hider. You'll need a 1.5mm Allen key. There's a little Allen screw there which you need to undo. Twist this off because we are going to be fitting a suppressor to this part later. Now we need to remove this outer barrel. We need a T30 Torx bit. These screws are pretty tight, so we're going to get the wrench for that. Once these screws are removed, that should then slide off. I'm going to put that to one side because we are going to refit that later. Now we need to separate the upper part from the lower. So we're going to push this pin through here, remove that. That should then come out, and then we need to remove that pin there. Pull this pin, and separate those two. We also are going to have to remove the spring from here because we won't need that, as it is going to be a bolt action. To remove this spring from here, there is a very, very small pin. It's a bit hard to see. I'll try and get a focus on that. Very, very small pin there that has to be pushed down, and then that spring will come out. So again, we're going to put that to one side because we're not going to need that, but we'll keep it if we want to change it back. So again, we're going to put this lower part to one side because we're going to obviously reassemble the new upper into that later on. So now we're going to have to remove the barrel from this part because we're going to need to join the new upper onto the end of the barrel. With that, also with that hop unit, we won't be needing this part anymore because this is how you adjust the current hop. So we're going to strip that down now. So to remove this, you will need one of these. Just locates into one of those holes there and twist. And they are pretty tight. So you'll need to give it a little bit of force, but just being very careful not to break any part of this upper. This now comes completely off, like so. We will need to keep this, but as I say, we will not need, this will be in effect useless because the new hop will be adjustable from another point in here in the new upper. We also won't need this plastic piece here because that is also with the new upper part. So we'll now put that to one side and insert the bolt back and the charging handle back into this part here. So the next part would be to undo the two Allen keys from here, Allen screws, spray a bit of silicone spray here, and you can unscrew this all the way to separate these two pieces, because what we're trying to do is remove this piece here. You want to try and remove that piece, which involves pushing a little pin all the way through and out to remove it. So as you can see, this is the old hop unit in a barrel. This is going to be the new in a barrel, along with the new hop unit and hop bucking. So again, we're going to put that to one side because we're probably not going to need that at all. We're going to take this new hop unit out. We've got some accessories there that we're going to need, and there's the hop unit itself. And here is the hop bucking. There is another part here, but we're not going to need this part here at all for that. So the first thing we want to do is install this hop bucking onto the barrel. To do that, we are going to have to remove this, I don't know if you, let's get this camera to focus, this rubber, part of the rubber bucking here. And we're going to use these snips to do so. So you want to get this as flat as possible on there and snip this off. Don't worry if there's a little bit left on, we're actually going to use some fine sandpaper to remove any excess. Just going to snip that off here. About all we can remove with these. Just be careful not to cut into the rest of the bucking. Okay, so the best thing to do now would be to install this onto here. Now it does come with a little don't know if you can see that, there's a little, let's try and focus this in a minute. There is a small little arrow here which aligns with here on the inner barrel. Okay, so we're going to do that now. Slide that on. So that is on there, and then we're going to take some fine sandpaper and we're going to rub the excess ridge off this. Best thing to do is get some fine sandpaper and get it on the edge of a table and just gently rub that off, and you can see that there. Once you think you've removed all that part and it's now all flat, we can then install this part onto here, and this, the little cutout here, goes in line with the arrow that's on the hot bucking. So I want to slide that on. Will be a bit tight. All the way around. I'm just going to try and zoom in there. As you can see, we've got the point of the arrow in line with that little cutout there. Okay. Now we can start installing the rest of this hop unit. So we want to undo this collar. That actually pushes down on the hot bucking to increase, and that locks the barrel in place there when we slide that over. And then you've got 3 little pins inside, which when the collar is tightened up will grip the barrel. So we want to just gently push them out so the barrel can pass through. They do provide you with spares just in case you lose them. It is easier if you put that back back on there so we don't lose the pins. And before we do that, shall remove that there. That is the actual hop adjustment, and that there is what pushes down on the hop booking. So you want to get these pins out like so, and then slide this through like so, and on your barrel there are the notches cut out, which this first brass piece will go into. It's a bit awkward to fit sometimes. So that is the part that locks the barrel into position. Then we'll slide that collar back over, tighten this up, and that's locked the hop unit onto the barrel. And then we can reinstall this part, which will adjust the hop. That's all now back in there, and as you can see, this has a stop for the max hop and for minimum hop. I'll show you how to adjust that in the gun later on. So just making sure that spins nice and freely. Get to that part later. So now we can install that into the to this part now, and then installing it into the new upper. Right, so now we're going to get the new upper, and we need to remove this piece here. There is a little notch cut out in the side to where this little piece that sticks out must locate. That simply just goes in like so. Okay, and as you can see there, you can actually, when you pull the bolt back, you can get to poke a small 1.5mm Allen key and actually crank this brass ring round, because it's got notches in it, to adjust your hop. So now we're going to insert that into the upper. Okay, and now we're going to install this back over here, and we want to tighten. Once that is installed, you'll see there's a couple of notches in there to line up. So that's installed like so, and then simply tighten that onto there. And we will have to nip this up with this spanner here. Now we're going to install the lower and upper back together. The hammer part here must be cocked back to do so. So install and push the first pin through and gently locate into there, snap that down like so, and push that pin back in. So now that is all assembled back together, and all we have to do now is put the handguard back over and install the suppressor. Let's get this back over there. And we can tighten these bolts back up here. And now we can go and install the suppressor. Before we put the suppressor on, there was a ring that has to go over first. Then the suppressor will go on, like so. Get this done up. Okay, that's the suppressor on. With the outer part of the suppressor removed, which leaves this that you've just screwed on, there is a very small hole there to put an Allen screw. It didn't come with one, so I've took it out the old flash hider. Now fix that on there, so now that can't be removed. We can then put this part back on. It just goes back on like so and locks into position. We will then unscrew this end cap and reinsert that down the end. That is now out, and you can see just in there the inner barrel now comes pretty much all the way to the end. So you want to take that, push that over. Now that's in there now, and we want to locate that back on. And that is it now complete. It is now one bolt action gas rifle.